Alright, back again today with some more Zen games. This time versus New, which is a requested hero in the Discord. I'm Aurora, and this is Tegan. This is my partner. And then we also have Wilson, who is the cat, who is sitting right there. So I recorded this game earlier in the day just so that I could get a good New game on camera. In my experience, a lot of them are either you get high rolled or they high roll you, and I thought this game was probably a pretty good mix of neither player really high rolling super hard. I mean, new maybe high rolled a little bit, but it was definitely a very close game. So I wanted to kind of showcase a closer game as opposed to just a blowout game. I'm going to start the video now, and we lost the die roll, so we are going first, which is not ideal. For our sideboard, I'm going to pause here real quick, and basically against New, I like to fat deck them a little bit. So I board out Levels and Orihone because those are kind of the blowout cards, or the blowout blues that they can banish. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I fat deck them a little. I also bring in like blanches. An interesting thing about my particular board is I only run one snag. A lot of the early lists for Zen were on 3 snags. But as New has kind of adapted to Zen, they run a lot more base power attacks, like Weakest Link, CNC, Leave No Witnesses, Pursue Knowledge, Surgical Extraction, like all those basically. So that's why Snag is kind of just a one of in this deck in case we draw it, or it's good to kind of arsenal. And yeah, that's pretty much it for my board, and the rest is pretty much stock standard, as well as Sync Belows. I like Sync Belows a lot into New just because you can send important cards to the bottom so they're still in your deck for later, like Art of War. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Any questions, Tegan, or nothing?
No, I know your build.
That's fair. All right, well, we'll get started here. Sorry in advance that the video is like a little bit kind of cut off. We're gonna shrink it here. Yeah, this is just me not realizing the recording was the way it is. But this turn, I actually think I make a mistake. My logic here is I want to Kakara, put Descendant and Hunterwoods into Graveyard and Arsenal CNC, but I think it might actually be too greedy to try to Arsenal a CNC on turn 0 like this.
An Art of War, you mean?
Or yeah, put an Art of War in Arsenal on turn 0. I think the better, if we go kind of back to the start of this turn, we have a Warmongers, a Descending Gustwave, and an Art of War, and a Hunterwinds, right? I think the play here might have been to try to Arsenal the Descending Gustwave to try to get our Transcend off. Because against New, you don't want to commit yourself to putting Art of War in Arsenal this early. So I think I might have actually just played Art of War just to get in some early chip damage on turn 1. It's kind of really bad to see it this early. But yeah, I'm going to continue the play. So we just do Surging, Hunterwinds, Arsenal the Art of War. And they just give us some blocks. I think they stay at 40. Also, I think I can full screen this. I wonder if there's a way to hide the player too. Maybe not. Okay. But we'll Arsenal that Art of War. And then this next turn, we pretty much immediately get punished. So they do Spider's Bite here. My general policy with New is to almost never block daggers. Unless you know exactly what is in their hand. Like, if they show you a level somehow, or they show you something and you block misplay, I think that's probably right. But against just a random hand, there's not really much you can do. And here we get punished for arsenaling our Art of War this early. Because we can only block 5 with our hand currently, unless we want to give up another Art of War, but then we'll basically give them information about what our Arsenal is. So we unfortunately have to just let it die here. Committing armor this early is also terrible when you don't have a cheating deck. So basically just trying not to commit here. On our turn, I immediately got punished, and I realized that now we definitely don't want to Arsenal this Art of War, right? It's pretty terrible. So I'm just going to pitch it here with the goal of spinning into CNC. Again, the hand is not incredible here just because we don't have blue. I would have liked to have an arsenal at the end of this, but, you know, you kind of just got to play the hands as they're given. Yeah, I think they take a little bit to think about the spinning wheel kick. I think I might even like I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit. All right, spinning is finally resolved. Let's see what they do. Pretty sure they just no blocks this, yeah. Or yeah, sink below. Makes sense. And I do think the CNC actually hits, if I'm remembering correctly. So you get a decent amount of value here. From what I saw of their build, I think they were running a lot of D-Reacts. At least that all you got and sink belows, I think, are kind of like the cards that I saw this match. One thing to pay attention to as kind of the game goes on is just kind of the life difference. It's something definitely to keep track of into New, because generally they can whittle you down kind of over the course of a bunch of turns. And then here we draw an all red hand, but it's actually kind of good because Persuasive Prognosis can reveal blue off the top, and we just get to keep the entire hand. And if we get to keep the entire hand, we can do something like 100 wins into E-Strike for 7, pitching like Bonds or Blanch, probably Bonds. If they do hit here, it's pretty bad, but I think we're willing to take the risk, especially when we're only faced with like 1 damage. Yeah, and then they end up actually pumping this anyways, thinking maybe I have a D-React or something, I'm not sure. But we just let this hit.
It's interesting that they're doing hiss here.
Yeah, it is interesting they have hiss here.
Because this doesn't even clear the D-React.
Yeah. So here we get punished because we hit a sink below off the top. And I think their choice here is interesting. I would immediately snap pick the E-Strike, but I think they go for the Bonds here.
That's wrong.
I think that's wrong, but again...
If they take E-Strike, you can't
do anything, basically.
You can't do anything.
Right.
Your turn is like Kakara 100 wins at best.
Yeah. So we kind of get a really good turn here. So they could basically ruin our entire turn if they do that. But now we get to do 3 into 5, getting an Arsenal, which is really solid. And we find a Path While Travel, which is our first transcend of the game. Not turn 0, obviously, but still is pretty early, so we're happy about that. Here, I think I refresh.
I thought you were like actually refreshing the video somehow.
So here we get hit with the Rowdy Locals, and the problem with Rowdy Locals is that I have to give up 2 cards in order to block it. And I don't think that's worth it, because Rowdy Locals is basically like card neutral. If they discard a card, we also discard a card. So it's basically only representing like 2 damage, and we can play off this hand by doing like the Path Will Travel from Arsenal into the Chase Aspect line is my logic here. So we just opt to try to take this, and then see what their kind of next play off of this is. So they opt for Tunic here. And then they have Siren's Call, which I think is still fine. In order to not lose value on them just getting rid of our drop in the ocean, what I do here is just drop in the ocean in response. Just so that they have to take the Harmony of the Hunt, and then it blocks the Rowdy Locals is the logic there.
Say hi to Philip.
Oh, hey Philip, what's up? So now I'm also just debating double transcend, but if I double transcend, then I get both Chis in my hand, and then they just take a Chi anyways. With this line, at least I get to block 2 on the Rowdy Locals, but it also gets pumped up to 3. So it's not great either way.
Siren's Call on this is actually really cool.
Yeah. So they're going to be able to discard something from our hand here. And it's not a whole... I think we actually lose maybe our entire hand here. I can't remember. Yes, because they mask us also. So Against new, sometimes you just lose your entire hand and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. Classic, fun gameplay. And then I think they also pitch to the rowdy locals here. And then we discard our last bond, or our second bonds. So we're down 2 bonds at this point in the game, which is not great. Ideally, we would like, those in the deck for when we can transcend and, get 1/2 of the descendant bonds combo. Again, policy with daggers is almost never block them unless you know exactly what's in their hand. An interesting thing is their pitching levels, which maybe suggests that their hand doesn't have another blue in it. So they can't do anything crazy with levels, but they're going for bonds of attraction here. I checked my graveyard real quick, and I think maybe they're trying to go for just banishing the other bonds so I can't recur it with Preserve Tradition or something, which I think makes sense. But aside from that E-Strike or the rowdy or the Persuasive Prognosis not taking E-Strike, I think they've been playing pretty well up until this point, and the life totals are still pretty even. And I'm sure there is maybe some argument to taking bonds there. So they hit an homage off the top, and then they just opt to banish Bonds of Ancestry. For a lot of these stealth cards, I pretty much always just kind of take the damage off of them. Because banishing the top card of the deck is not the same as disrupting your hand. I don't think it's normally ever right. So there's a Slither that we knew about, which is fine. They get another card in hand for arsenaling. Yep. And then our turn, we finally get our first Transcend off, which is important. There might have honestly been merit. I think I might have forgotten about that Slither on the last turn. So there might have been merit to blocking since we knew what they had in hand. It would probably have to be with Aspect of Tiger Body though, so I'm not sure that's even that great. Here we're just going to send some damage. So the Chase Aspect line is very good into new just because it allows you to kind of keep up pressure. And a lot of Nuus, at least when 9 bonds was around, we're running Censor. So the Chase Aspect line is very good for playing around that. Yeah. So here I'm just kind of checking my graveyard, seeing what I still have left in the deck. I think I have 1 more Chase the Tail left in the deck, and then I have 1 more Bonds left in the deck, which is not an amazing spot to be in. Chase and Bonds are kind of the I want to say the most damage output combo cards that we kind of have in the deck at this point. Another important thing into new is to try to keep them off 5-card hands as much as possible. Just because it makes playing around the disruption a little bit easier, because it's more telegraphed the fewer cards they have in hand. Although here they're keeping a 4-card hand, which again, not great for us. If I remember this turn correctly, I think this is a Bonds of Agony line. Let's see. Let's give him a second to do it.
What do you do when bonds? When they do bonds, out of curiosity.
So they're starting with a dagger, which again, our policy is almost to just never block dagger, unless you know for certain what's in their hand. I'm also kind of keeping an eye on their graveyard just to kind of know what threats they have. The key cards I kind of keep track of are Just a Nick and Siren's Call. We'll get to the bonds once they start playing it, but here, I'm going to actually pause real quick here. So what I'm thinking with this Bonds of Agony is it already has Go Again, right? And our hand, we do have to block this by the nature of having 100 Winds and Harmony. These are actually two very good cards for New to hit, because they can get rid of 3 blue Hunterwinds, put them in the graveyard, and then their chi now represents like 6 damage in the graveyard. If they take Harmony, they can do triple Harmony, right? And I didn't see what our banish is so far. I think I might be actually checking that. Hopefully I mouse over it. Yeah, alright, so our banish is Harming the Hunt and Homage are the only 2 cards that are playable right now. Which is good, because their chi for the new ability basically only represents 1 damage at this rate. If we don't block with Harmony or Hunterwinds, the Harmonies can get very scary, especially if they can get a blue combo card from us, which is pretty easy as New. The Hunterwinds are probably even more scary against the New, just by nature of them doing Hunterwinds, and then that's 6 damage, like, guaranteed. So, based on that information, we are pretty priced into blocking with Harmony and Hunterwinds. And then the reason to not block with Blanch is we only have 2 Blanches in the deck, and they're not playable by New. And then Passover, obviously there's only 1 Passover in the deck, and we can play it at instant speed. So my hope here is to get them to not commit and maybe just keep their reacts. And then on our turn, we maybe send Blanch with pitching Passover. And then block with Harmony and Hunterwinds. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's so much more in depth than what I have to do when New Bond's my hero.
Yeah, Tegan plays a lot of Kano.
You just pitch your whole hand or lay it in front of it and snag.
Yep. So here, I think for a little bit. So yeah, we give up Ancestral Harmony and Hunterwinds. Against Bonds, it's sometimes just right to block with your entire hand. The card's nasty. And they follow up with the second one, which is incredibly funny. So here, I'm actually going to call their bluff. Basically, if they double pump here, like if they Justinic plus a Rousing Wave, first of all, we don't have to worry about Rousing Wave for the rest of the game. Or actually, I might actually block with Blanch. I can't remember.
No, or actually, let's see.
Yeah. Oh, wait.
No, you don't.
So I banish it to the mask, is what happens. So we don't get to keep our Blanch, which sucks. And they are going to Bonds of Agony. But on the plus side, they don't have an arsenal, and we don't have to worry about a Rousing Wave anymore.
You're just going to pass over the...
Yeah, I'm going to pass over, and I'm looking at their graveyard right now. The best card in their graveyard is CNC. Leave No Witnesses is probably a better target most of the time, but CNC for sure is the play here. And then we take 5, and they get to look at our deck, which is fine. So overall, I think it's a pretty well navigated turn, especially in the face of double Bonds.
They messed up your pitch stack, though.
Yeah, they messed up the pitch stack, which, Zen has as the hero ability.
That is a really good light navigation of the double bonds, and now you don't have to worry about the. The third one could show up, but it doesn't matter that much.
So here, our biggest worry is actually Codex, just because we're not on an arsenal, and I kind of mouse over that there. We've already seen 1 Codex, but 2 more in the deck. That's another power card that we have to kind of keep track of. And then here they hit us with an Art of Desire Body. I think we opt to just take this damage just because it's a stealth card. And our hands actually can push a decent amount next turn. Again, the life totals are a little bit precarious, so I do want to try to find an Art of War within the next couple turns, ideally. But, you always get what they want. And they opt not to slither this, actually, which is interesting, because they're kind of like, the draw card actually doesn't really matter all that much. And then with our hand, we're just going to develop out our Bonds and our Descending Gust Wave, just because it's the most damage-efficient thing we can do. I believe this is actually the last Bonds in the deck at this point. So it's kind of unfortunate here. I think I'm checking here to see how many bonds are in the deck, and then also aspect of Tiger Body. I think we have one more in the deck after we banish this one. So the play here is going to be bonds for 4 into aspect for 3 into Kakara for 2 into 1. Which gets us a little bit closer on life totals, because it's basically 7-7 at the end of that exchange, assuming that they don't block or, whatever. And we'll get an arsenal for E-Strike. I'm really looking to try to keep an arsenal here, just to, have something. Yeah, that all you got's pretty rough against that, honestly. But it's kind of fine. They still get to keep a 5-card hand here, which is really gross. So I'm thinking this is a really bad spot to be in, if I'm being honest. And I think this actually might be the turn. Well, I'm not going to spoil it, but there's a turn coming up where there's something kind of unfortunate happens. Yep, so this is actually the turn. So, unfortunately, I think I spammed spacebar at the same time the Talishar was shitting out, and I think I passed through reactions. Basically, I should have blocked this, but because I passed through reactions and then they had a reaction, I now have hidden information that I can't. I would feel bad asking to undo that. So this pursuit of knowledge should be blocked. You'll see here that I'm trying to pass, but nothing is happening on the screen. And then Talishar takes a million years to load. Yeah, so we basically passed through reactions. Yeah, and they stir the pot, mask a recurring nightmare, which is unfortunate. But there's not a whole lot you can do about this.
If you're gonna block this, what would you have blocked with? Just armor here, or?
Yeah, we probably would have blocked with
Traverse Shuko or Traverse Stride. I mean, you don't want to let it hit.
Yeah, we don't want to let it hit. It might have been Traverse Shuko, honestly. It's actually kind of fortunate that we do let this hit, though, and I'll explain why. It's because now they hit us with a weakest link, which we are fully able to block now. So it's actually kind of fortunate that this happened. We just give 7 armor here, just because we want both the Chi and the Tiger.
That's really interesting that.
Yeah, so
that ended up working out.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that ended up doing. They still have a 5-card hand, which is not great. But if they were, if I was able to block if I was able to block the pursuit of knowledge, I block 4 here, right? Then they slither. Or how did they give it go again? They slithered, right?
They slithered, yeah. They slithered from when they hissed.
Yeah. So they have the slither.
No, they undertow stiletto. Yeah.
Oh yeah, maybe it was stiletto. Yeah. Okay. So we would block 4 there, and then we'd have 3 armor remaining. We'd probably have to banish either shifting winds.
Just block the shifting winds.
Or no, because they masked also.
Oh, right.
Remember. So we'd have to banish shifting winds to the mask. So it means our hand is down Descending Gust Wave, Art of War, Crush Tiger, Chi.
You had Warmongers.
Or sorry, there'd be no Tiger here. So it'd be Chi, Descending Gust Wave, Art of War. And then we have 3 armor up.
No, you had Warmongers in your hand at the start of his turn. That's what you banished to mask.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. That's what it was. So, yes, correct. So our hand would be Descending Gust Wave, Shifting, Art of War, Chi after the banish on Warmongers. And then we have 3 armor up for Weakest Link. And then what I'd probably do with the Weakest Link is I'd block 3 here and then block with Shifting Winds. Is probably the plan. Because we would be able to soak up all 6 there. And they're basically tapped out, so we know they have no reactions. But again, this is kind of lucky that this worked out this way for them. So they should not have a 5th card in their hand. But, that's sometimes the way it happens. In paper, this wouldn't happen. But we're going to do buff banish on our Tiger. And then keep in mind here, we don't actually have another bonds in the deck for Descending Gust Wave. And that's why I think I check here in a second. So this is actually pretty tough. They are at 9 though. So here I'm fishing for something to do, and I'm gonna take a quick look. I think the thing is Tiger Swipe here. The problem is we have E-Strike in Arsenal, so like open the center Fluster Fist doesn't really do anything with Swamp, and we're not gonna generate any Tigers, so that's why I'm not even considering it there. I think my play here, if we pause, is E-Strike, is Kakara using the 2. Then we go Tiger for 2. Then Tiger Swipe will come in for 5. So that's 9 damage right there. Then we do E-Strike for 6. And then we do Blanch for 8. So that's 9 plus 6 plus 8, which is 23. So they have up to 15 block, or so they have Mask and potentially up to 15 block here. So 17.
Yeah.
Or
18 because of the
tunic. Oh, yeah, tunic, yeah. So it's very likely that they're going to be able to block all of this, and I think they do block most of this. So we're not still here in a very great position. If they had one less block card in hand, it would definitely be a lot better. But it's unfortunately the way it works sometimes. One also important note here is that on the Pursuit turn, very few of their buffs can actually target Pursuit. Like, Hiss doesn't target Pursuit, Venom Spite doesn't target Pursuit, like, you know, the common, like, Assassin buff cards, which is also why I think it was probably better to block with armor there. And again, post Bonds ban, the life totals are very, very close. Sometimes you can even go an entire game with Art of War in the last, like, 20 cards of your deck, and then you just lose that game sometimes. It's definitely a matchup where patience is key. And I think it's just very difficult for Zen now, especially with you know, the changes to the deck composition. So they're 5, and we're now threatening 6 into 8, which is not exactly like a great Art of War turn. I think the Art of War is only doing +4 here. So not ideal. The Blanches and the E-Strikes are a lot better on the turns when they disrupt you as opposed to the Art of War turn itself, but they're definitely playable.
You still take tempo back, like they're not.
Yeah.
Like they have to block this.
So they are blocking with a 2-block, a 3-block, and then Mask of Recurring Nightmares. And then the worst case scenario here is like they keep a Codex in hand, and then we get blown out. But yeah, we'll see. So they're opting to Chi here, and I take a quick look at our Banish, and because we blocked with 100 Winds instead of letting it get hit, it's now an Arsenal. And I think they do actually make a small misplay here. They actually opt to not play the Harmony out, which I think is wrong. Because they would come in for basically 2 and then 1, as opposed to 1 and then 1. Which would mean that we would probably have to commit the Warmongers as a block card, and then we maybe do 2 into, or Kakara into CNC and put them on a 1-card hand again.
They're giving you a Chi.
No, they're not giving me Chi, because they're
Oh, they're blanched.
Yeah, they're blanched.
Oh, interesting.
Which is actually kind of smart.
The Harmony doesn't do anything. Or, I mean, it does damage, but you don't get a Tiger from it.
Yeah, that's true.
That's probably why they did that.
Well, it's still, so if they play the Ancestral Harmony, it would buff the 100 Winds by +1, right?
Right, I meant the Harmony of the Hunt.
Yeah. But like, if they do buff the with Harmony of the Hunt, or with Ancestral Harmony on the 100 Winds, it would come in for 2 and then 1, right? Mm-hmm. So we'd be forced to block that. And we do get to keep an Arsenal just based on what they did here. So we get to do Kakara into CNC arsenaling snag, and the snag actually does matter this game, which is very funny. They have in Battle Yacht, which is brutal. Again, that card basically just replaces itself, which is kind of rough. I forget what their hand is, but we might actually have caught them with the D-React here as well. I think they either go to 1 or they double block. Yeah, so we might have caught them with the D-React here. I might have to see if I figure out what their arsenal is. So here they Spider's Bite, and then I think we're obligated to give Fluster here. I'm keeping Sink Below. Actually, so I don't know if they've played or blocked with the Leave No Witnesses yet, but that's why, in case they go Codex into Leave No Witnesses. And then they just send in Arzar Mind instead of daggering again, which I think makes sense. They basically just take us off the card. But on our turn, we're going to be able to do 2 into 4 for basically 3 cards worth of value.
You didn't catch him with the D-React then?
Yeah, so we didn't catch them with the D-React. So it's interesting that they didn't block... Wait, what? Did they block with Codex?
They did. I don't know what... You can't see what their graveyard is, obviously, because you...
Hold on. Let me actually see. So...
They blocked with Codex and Venomous Bite. And they kept...
Okay.
They drew a card... I don't know what card they drew off of...
Oh, wait. I think they were Warmongers.
Oh, yeah. They Warmongers themselves,
Oh.
so they couldn't play it.
Wait, hold on. Let me see. Yeah, let me go back. I didn't even catch this.
Yeah.
So they Warmongers themselves, so they blocked with the Codex because they couldn't play it. Oh, that is... It's very interesting.
I don't know why they played that.
Yeah.
Like, your deck... If your deck's running it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, right.
I mean, it mattered on that turn because I guess you had, like, 2...
Yeah.
non-attacks in hand, but
So on the Codex turn they had red Venomous Bite and Codex and then a blue.
mm-hmm.
So
it was one of those 2 blues. And
yeah, it's one of these 2 blues.
Blue.
Yeah. So I think the better play might have been to... Oh, well, if they keep the yellow... So if they keep the yellow and draw into a red, then they can't double dagger and, like, keep me off 2 cards.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I don't think that's actually necessarily a bad play. It does mean that they would be at 2 versus 1 against me, which does matter in terms of, like, the 2 and 4 breakpoint. But yeah, we'll keep going with the video. So I cover this with Sink Below, and I'm opting not to Sink just because I know I can take them off 3 cards, hopefully, unless they have a D-React. Which I think we do see another D-React, which is kind of brutal here. Although I could be wrong. Let me check. We also just have the Stag in Arsenal just in case they try to pump something or do something weird.
They dropped it. That's
Okay.
kinda funny.
So it's basically blocking with 3 cards there. Yeah, we pass to the end of the turn. They opt to play a Rowdy Locals, which actually kind of blows on this hand because it's coming in for a breakpoint.
You can snag it though, right?
Yeah, that's actually what we do. So I think we block with... so I tell them I'm thinking real quick. What I do is I actually block with E-Strike, I think. The logic being that I think... I was checking the graveyard. I think we have Spinning Wheel Kick left in deck. So my play on the next turn is going to be 2 off Kakara into 1 Spinning Wheel Kick. So it's 2, then 4, then 3, then 1, which should basically eat their entire hand.
How are you doing that?
So I'll pause it real quick. Okay. So we pitch Harmony to Kakara, right, for 2 damage. Then we do Spinning Wheel Kick, which comes in for 4. Or sorry.
Oh, are you doing snag and then Rising Sunsetting Moon?
Yeah,
okay,
sorry.
that makes sense.
Yep. So we snag Rising Sun here. Or here, I'm gonna let the video play while we talk. But I basically snag Rising Sun, Setting Moon just to flip the chi, so we get the tutor on that turn, and so we can pitch our harmony here. I'm trying to think if E-Strike was actually better. I don't know if it was. E-Strike's more easily coverable because it's not multiple breakpoints. It's just like 7, theoretically, I think is what I was thinking about. Yep, so here we snag and Ready Locals pumps itself, so it's affected by snag. And then we preserve, and I don't think we actually bottom anything. We see a sink below, which I think we just ship. And we didn't know we were gonna draw the sink below, so we couldn't have like not blocked with E-Strike or something weird. But here we're gonna present multiple breakpoints. Yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say. They have another that all you got here, which is brutal. It also means that we're not closing the chain, so they can't get another card to block with. They're obligated to double buck here, and then we come in for 3 and then 1. And then I give them the good game. So I hope this game was kind of helpful. I do think that they maybe made a few kind of questionable decisions, but like maybe it was contextual, like maybe their hand was telling them to do something else, or maybe their experience. Overall, any comments on the game before wrap up?
No, I think he played it really well. Yeah, like it was. Like, I feel like every single time I've ever seen you play against New, it's just this very long, drawn-out, grindy game of attrition instead of just big pop-off turn.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't really have, like, a pop-off turn. You had the thing with the Blanch, but that was about it.
Yeah. I think my biggest misplay this game was arsenaling the Art of War turn 0. I think that's, like, my brain, every time I like see an Art of War is like, ooh, just put that in Arsenal. But against New, more and more, I'm just trying to actually just pitch them into the deck, just to draw into them later, as opposed to like committing myself super early to trying to defend my arsenal with equipment. And in that case, we actually just let it die there, just to, you know, not give them more information about protecting our arsenal. Like if we try to protect that Art of War there, we basically get blown out. So yeah, overall, definitely some kind of mistakes on both sides, but very close game. Yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, thank you all. Bye.